Welcome to the Worth Listening podcast, where we focus on having positive and productive conversations around money. I'm your host, Lauren, a 4-time Olympian and certified financial planner. On this show, my guests share their money stories. Everyone has a unique story and experiences both wins and losses when it comes to money. My intent is to give listeners something they can relate to, something that builds their courage to be open and take control of their own money story. When I'm not creating a great show for my listeners, I'm running my company, Worth Winning, where I help individuals and families organize their finances. Check us out at worth-winning.com. All right, now on with the show.
Jacent, I am so excited to have you closing out our mental wealth series. So can you just tell us a little bit about kind of how it all got started from you? So where are you from? Do you have siblings? What was it like where you grew up? Were there any money stories? Lay into it for us.
Well, Lauren, I'm excited about this conversation too. And I feel like you saved the best for last. And so really just growing up, I grew up in Las Vegas. I was born in Uganda, but grew up in Las Vegas. So I am first generation, third culture. And that kind of plays a role in how I came to relate to money and work ethic and how you should strive in your career and things like that. My culture heavily has to do with that. And so as far as money goes, like crazily enough, someone asked me that actually earlier today. And I was like, I feel like my relationship with money was like non-existent. So we didn't really talk overtly about money, right? And I wasn't being taught about money overtly as far as like what to do with it. And the only thing that I can remember as far as like overt conversation around money was my uncle telling me like, never co-sign for anybody for any reason whatsoever, ever in your life. Do you ever co-sign for anyone, you know? And so that stuck with me. And I haven't co-signed.
I was going to say, have you successfully made it to this part of life without co-signing, right?
I have, and I don't think I will ever do it, you know? So like, that was the only thing that was overtly communicated to me was never co-sign for anyone because then it makes you liable. And if something happens, God forbid, now you are on the hook for whatever that amount is. And so outside of that, I didn't really learn about what to do with money or anything. Now that I think is a gift and a curse because I didn't necessarily get bad stuff with money. You know what I mean? Like money is bad, or if you want money, you're a bad person, or money is evil. I didn't get any of those types of messages that sometimes people get growing up. But I also didn't get messages like, you know, this is what you do with money. Like, this is how you make money. You can save it. You can spend it. You can, give it away. And so it was kind of like neutral and non-existent. And really, you know, I guess that comes a little bit with privilege because it wasn't like we were like super poor or anything like that. We're like middle class. I had everything I kind of needed. And so I really didn't want for money or anything really until probably, let's say, maybe late high school, college for sure. Because then you start having friends, hanging out, wanting to be able to go do things or whatever, having a job and things like that. And so for me, growing up, I also was not a citizen until, well, I wasn't a citizen until 2017, but I wasn't even a permanent resident until I was about 19. So I couldn't get a traditional job like any American citizen can, right, legally, as a 15-year-old or 16-year-old, like a lot of people do. And so when I was growing up, making money looked like babysitting, right? I was getting paid cash, or I used to clean houses, and that was being paid cash. Or so it was really like, how do I find these odd jobs that I'm able to do to make some money to be able to go to Sonic with my friends or whatever the case may be? It really wasn't until I was 19 that I ever got my first legitimate job because I got a green card. And so that might be different than a lot of US citizens, born US citizens or whatever the case may be, experience with money growing up. I couldn't get it. Like I couldn't even get a job. I couldn't even like do certain things. And so that was unique, I think, for me. But really relationship-wise with money, there wasn't really one. We didn't talk about it. I didn't hear about it. I didn't ask about it. We didn't learn it in school. So I just lived my life.
Right. Okay. So we have two things that you just said that I feel like we need to circle back and unpack. So because there was no bad or good, do you remember anything about like, did you have an allowance? Did you have to do a certain thing to get toys? Was there a piggy bank? Nothing stands out there from the, like, it's just like a blank slate.
No, There was no allowance. The expectation was that you needed to have a clean space. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like, it wasn't going to get paid for the things that were like, this is what you're supposed to do. Like, I'm not going to pay you for what you're supposed to do. I'm not mad about it or anything, but no, not really any allowance or any incentive. Or if I wanted something, I think I just asked for it. And if it was reasonable enough, but maybe I also wasn't asking for like a lot of stuff either as a kid. I don't think I really wanted for much, but yeah, had none of those things.
And so the second thing I wanted to circle back to is in relationship to the idea that you said you were middle class. You said you didn't want for things. However, there were some barriers to you being able to earn. And I think that resonates with a lot of people. There's some narratives out there about people who are not able to earn because of their immigration status. But can you talk a little bit about what it was like to have that barrier to being able to earn, even though you had been raised here effectively? And you said you weren't poor, you were middle class. So can you just kind of lean into that and help us know what that looks like?
Yeah. And, let me rephrase it, because it's not being able to earn in a traditional sense, quote unquote, right? And so I couldn't get like a 9-to-5 or a W-2 job or anything that was legally oversought.
Yes, you were pretty limited in what you could do to earn. Yeah.
Well, I almost will say that because I operate in abundance, it wasn't limitation. It just forced me to be creative. You know what I mean? So it's just like, well, how can I make this happen? If I can't do it this way, then I can do it these other ways. So I don't know if I want to say limitation. It just forces a person to become creative and find other opportunities.
I love that. And so you feel like you've been in abundance your whole life. This is not something new. You didn't have to learn. Like, you operated in abundance from day one.
Yeah, I think for the most part, I just see opportunity. So it's not just about money. I see opportunity in everything. I see abundance in health. I see abundance in relationships. I see abundance in my spiritual walk. And so I think that it's kind of something that has been with me from an early age, just being very, I don't know if I want to say hopeful, if that's the right word, but, or optimistic, but really seeing abundance as opposed to scarcity. And then that just also happens with money too. And it happens to work. It happens to help,
Amen to that. I can't wait to talk more about that. But I want to go back a little bit. So we kind of covered your childhood. Then there's this like high school, college area of life that we all go through. Can you unpack a little bit what it was like for you in high school to think about college? Were there any conversations had there? Was college going to get paid for it? Because that's such a big deal for so many people. How did you navigate that area?
Oh boy. Yeah. Again, there's a lot of people who are first generation, so it's not that unique, but different than someone who is a US born citizen. I could not get FAFSA when I was in my senior year of high school, when colleges were coming to our school to have us fill out applications and the career coaches are talking to students and things like that. And so I recall UNLV came to my high school and they had us fill out applications and things like that, or whatever the case may be. And so I filled out the application, did all that fun stuff. And then I got accepted, but I was like, I don't know how I'm going to pay for school because I can't get any assistance, any federal assistance, grants, loans, nothing. I couldn't get nothing. Okay. Because I was not a citizen at the time. So I didn't think I was going to be able to go to college. I didn't think it was going to happen at that time. I was like, well, I guess maybe I'll have to take some time off, maybe to work and save money to pay as I go, like do a payment plan or something like that, which probably would have been better for my daggone life. But if that would have happened, we probably wouldn't be talking right now, right? So that's not how it went. I thankfully have a cousin who has done really well for himself, and he covered the cost of my first semester of school. And by the time the next semester, I believe, began is when I became a permanent resident because my uncle had adopted me and he was already a citizen. So then he could file for my permanent residency as my adopted father. So then I could get grants, the Millennial Grant, which we have here in Nevada, which covers a good portion of schooling and things like that. So I was able to get assistance after the fact, but I didn't think I was going to ever go to college, which is crazy because I didn't just go get a degree. I went and got another degree, I got a master's too, and all of that. And so I didn't think I was going to be able to go. But again, it's an opportunity to say, I can't do it this way, but if I were able to do it, what other options are there? What other routes are there that I could entertain or take or ask about?
I love it. So opportunities all around you. College came, got taken care of from the sense of uncle stepped in, was able to help you. So before we go to after college, during college, was there a time where you started thinking about like, how am I supposed to be managing money? Because college is when we're technically like adults, but we're like with training wheels on, if you will.
Oh man, maybe one broken training wheel, kind of like,
Right.
you know,
Limping
limping
around.
along. Boy, I really don't think I was thinking much about the management money piece. When I was 19, I got my first job at Forever 21, I think it was. And so then I was making money, but I still didn't know how to manage the money. So the money would come in, but baby, that money would also go out. Okay. So, you know, if I looked at my accounts and there's money there, I spend it. If there's no money there, I don't spend it. Like that was my money management system at the time, because I just didn't have any other information that was like, here's what you do, or you should, I didn't know what an emergency fund was, or that I should be saving a certain amount off top to pay myself first. Like none of this stuff applied. I didn't know about it, didn't know it was a thing or whatever, to some extent, because I think around 18, 19 is when I first heard of Dave Ramsey or something. He came and talked at my church, but I was like living my best life. So I wasn't really paying attention to things like that. As far as management of the money goes, I mean, I guess the management was, if there's money there, cool. If there's not money there, don't spend any money. That was the management.
And I think you bring up a really good point too about the idea that there are messages being given to us all the time. It's like whether or not you're in a place to receive them. So like you said, you have a vague memory of Dave being around and this thing happening. But if you weren't in a place to receive, like, yeah, okay, whatever. This was a cool thing. On to the next. My life is the same. And I think it's really important to kind of like notice, like, when am I ready to make myself receptive to whatever it is that is available to me? Because we all have to grow there. We have to have a various experience in life to say like, okay, I'm ready. Like, let me tune into this money thing now.
All right. Well, I don't know. When I was ready, Lord, I'm like, I should have been ready earlier. But again, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
So that brings us to a really good point as well, is, you know, there's all kinds of money mistakes that people make, financial failures that they have along the way. Is there something that you remember as like a standout financial failure and how you kind of handled it? And was there like an aha moment, as you were saying, like when you finally realized like, okay, I need to do some things differently?
Yeah. So in college was when I had to start figuring out like life, obviously, like all of us do. And so I wanted to be a star. And so I wanted to major in like performing arts and things like that or whatever, but I'm African. So my family was like, nah, girl. And so backup was doing psychology, because I was like, okay, cool. If I go down this path and I open my own practice, and I still have the flexibility in my schedule to be able to go on auditions, perform, live my best life, all that fun stuff. And so I knew that if I was going to be a therapist, that I need to go to grad school. Now, the way that my brain was thinking was undergrad wasn't that expensive. So I didn't really get any loans in undergrad. I think maybe less than $1,000 or something like that in undergrad. But my mentality was, I need to not get loans in undergrad, because if I go to grad school, I'm going to need the loans for grad school, which is still like dysfunctional thinking, right? Like I could have gotten grad school paid for. I ended up accumulating a lot of debt in grad school, and then from student loans, but then also with credit cards, because during that time, right? And here's the mental health and money piece, is that while I was in grad school, I ended up getting divorced. And then subsequently, a few months later, my dad passed away. That was 2014. Between 2013, 2014 to end of 2016 is when I had accumulated about $70,000 worth of student loan and credit card debt. And it was what I call like my grief storm, because I was just head down, still in grad school, trying to get things done. Ironically, going to school to become a marriage and family therapist, but I got divorced. So that came with guilt and shame and embarrassment and imposter syndrome and all of these emotional things on top of the grief of like losing my dad and all of that stuff. And so for me, the aha moment was when I read a book and it asked me to calculate my net worth for the first time. And that was the first time I was like, Beyonce has a net worth. Oprah has one of those. I have one of those, and I should like pay attention to it and do something about it. And so that was the first time, because your car payments are over here. Your student loan is over here. All of our accounts and things that we owe and manage are in different places. We never see it all together to understand what that full picture looks like. And so that was the first time I saw everything together, and it was negative $70,000. And I was like, aha, I was 26 at the time. And I was like, well. Like we have found ourselves at a crossroad, because it's so tough for me when I'm like, when you say like money failure, money mistake. Yes, it was an unknowing mistake and an unknowing failure because there's two parts. I'm the one that took the loans out and signed for them. I'm the one that got the credit cards and used them. Like I was not forced, right? So that's my responsibility. However, I was not informed either. You know what I mean? So they didn't tell me when I was pulling out the loans, like, hey, if you pull out these loans now, this is how long it's going to take you to pay them if you do X, Y, and Z. You never get that until after you graduate. What kind of crazy backward? Anyway, that's a whole nother podcast episode. Yes, it was a failure on my part that I didn't ask more questions, that I didn't think through it further, that I didn't know what I was signing myself up for. But to me, failure is such a beautiful way of learning how to grow and evolve and have a story that's dynamic to the point that now we're having this conversation that we're having now, right? Because of that failure and that mistake. So going into student loan debt, which so many people do, credit card debt, which so many people do, but I ended up paying it off in 3 years before I turned 30. So it also became my testimony.
Mm-hmm. Because those lessons can become testimonies. It is such a cool thing to hear how it all came full circle. It's like, okay, this thing happened and I'm not necessarily proud of it, but there's also some circumstances and acknowledging that there were some things that allowed that thing to be able to even be set up in my life to happen and not maybe feeling guilty or ashamed of it because this is just my life. So I think that brings us to kind of like where you are now. You became a therapist. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And you're helping people work through, the ideas of trauma and being overwhelmed and anxiety and also kind of like that aspect from a money standpoint as well, correct?
Oh, yeah, definitely. The mental health and money are interweaved. And that's why I kind of moved into that space was because not only was I having my own personal experience where I was seeing the connections between what got in the way of me being successful with money, having to do with my grief and my loss. And like you mentioned, guilt and shame and things like that. But I also, in my practice, work mostly with women, mostly women of color. And every single one of my clients has mentioned money as a major stressor in some way, shape, and form. Either that they don't have enough of it, they can't access services because of it, they have to go to a job that they don't like because they have to get the paycheck, they don't feel like they're capable of doing the work that they love and being paid appropriately for that work. So I saw so many connections between what was going on in my own personal journey and then what people were coming into therapy for, which I wasn't anticipating that money would be something that we would be talking a lot about, but it was. And so I was thinking to myself, well, okay, if this is coming up in all of these different realms, like what's missing that so many people are still having this problem? And how can I support there being solutions to this? And it really is being able to dig deep to understand the roots of what's going on, because the number one thing that people say and ask me about is, oh, well, the issue is I'm an overspender. I need to change my habits. And people are focused on the surface. People are focused on the symptoms. So when we go to the doctor and we have a cough and our back aches, we're telling them the symptom because we want them to understand and tell us and cure the root cause of whatever is going on. The spending, the habits, those are all symptomology of something that is deeper and going on and rooted somewhere else. And so you can change things on top for a little while. Sometimes people do okay for a season or whatever. But if we never address the root, you're going to go back to whatever it was you were doing previously. All it takes is one emergency. All it takes is one thing to go wrong. All it takes is to be knocked off the wagon to revert back to whatever we used to do. And so that's why it's so important. I heavily focus on the mindset, because when we transform your mindset, that's going to last you a lifetime. You can never be the same again after your mindset is transformed.
Ooh, all the snaps. Yes. Yes. Speak to us. Speak to us. Now you all see why I saved Jacent to the end, because this is going to bring us home with the right mindset to head into 2022. All right. So let's just kind of back up. This is the high level. This is where everybody wants to focus, but they really need to kind of dig in and get to the root. What tips do you have for being able to start to sort through your money mindset or the traumas that you've experienced so that you can start to treat these symptoms that you're maybe even shaming yourself about right now? I know that I hear it all the time, the same way you were saying, oh my goodness, I have a spending problem. Yeah, I know I need to eat out less. I'm just not good at money. I don't know numbers. I don't know math. There's all these negative money messages that people are sharing. How do you start to move that to the side and really unpack what is the root problem?
Yeah, there's a book I read recently and it's called No Excuses. So we have to recognize, right, all of these justifications that we're coming up with that we're saying keep us from being able to get to where we want to be in our life are excuses or lies, because there's another book called Lies We Tell Ourselves. Lies we're telling ourselves that keep us where we're at and condone our current behavior. So I'm making it rain at Amazon. And my way of condoning that behavior is saying, it's just too hard to manage my money so that I can keep doing what I'm doing, essentially, because that way I'm still in some way, shape, and form like a good person. Because our identity and how we classify or look at ourselves and how we want other people to look at us really matters to us. And so I would say the first thing to do when you're getting in control of your money is to make a decision. That's where it started for me. But the decision came from awareness. So I wasn't aware that there was a problem until I calculated my net worth. If you haven't calculated your net worth, go ahead, take a stab at it, right? It's your assets minus your liabilities. And that's going to tell you what your net worth is. And then you say, well, how do I feel about this? Because it's not all about money, right? So because we're talking about money and generational wealth and things like that, it's about what you can do with the money, which is a resource that can change your and your family's lifestyles. So because my cousin positioned himself well, he was able to take care of my college fees for the first semester. If he wasn't good with his money, he wouldn't have been able to generationally, wealthily, right, help me out. So that's generational wealth, is being able to do things that you never would have otherwise imagined, things that will not be an issue for the people that come after you because you have taken care of it. So you have to become aware. Need to look at your situation, be honest with yourself, and then decide to be committed to the process. Because everybody's on the fence going back and forth. They're playing, what is it called? They're scared to jump in for double dutch. So they're like, oh, I don't know. Should I do it? Oh my God. Right. And so you just need to jump in. People want to know every single step of the how before they ever commit themselves to the process. That's not how life works. You have to commit yourself up front. You need to make a down payment, okay, on what you want to see happen in your life. And when you make that down payment, then you will begin to get access to the things that are going to help you find out what the steps are throughout the way. So I didn't know how I was going to pay off over $90,000 in student loan and credit card debt. I actually only made $17,800 in 2016 with a master's degree. So I didn't even make enough money to cover my bills, let alone pay off all my debt. But I said, okay, I'm going to figure it out. And whatever it is that I got to do to figure it out is what's going to happen. And when I did that, I tripled my income. And by the end of 2017, finished paying all my debt off by 2020, not knowing what I was preparing myself for, a whole freaking pandemic. I made more money in 2020 than I ever made any year before, right? That's the thing that has to happen, is that you have to make a commitment up front. Stop waiting to feel like it. Stop waiting for motivation, because those things don't last. Your dedication, your conviction to what it is that you feel called to do in your life, and your commitment to the process with a community is going to be helpful. Because I think that's the last piece, is having the right people supporting you so that you can follow through.
I love it. So dedication, commitment, community. I missed one.
Conviction.
Yes. Because I think that what happens a lot of times, like you said, you get into a hole or a rut or a sad place or back up against the wall. And our go-to is someone else did this to me. There's this blame, there's this shame, and you immediately try to make yourself the victim. However, if you take some ownership, if you are convicted to say, I want to do something different, if you're dedicated to saying like, hey, you know what, my back's against the wall, but I'm gonna just walk away from the wall and start seeing the opportunities instead of the obstacles on the other side of whatever it is that you're facing, you can go out there and you can create more income versus saying like, oh man, my boss won't pay me more. It's like, I'm going to go get a better job. I'm going to do something to level up in my finances. And it prompts you to take action when you have that conviction and that confidence. So I love that. What would you say to someone that is kind of really struggling, has been, maybe years now of just been stuck in the cycle? I think it's easier maybe when you experience one thing to kind of just bounce back and say like, okay, I'm ready to go. But if you've been stuck in a cycle of negative money mindset or a cycle of negative events that have happened to you, what's kind of that one thing you can do to like get yourself going in the right direction? It's like, we hear the no excuses. We hear like, okay, I can do better. But if you've been there for a while, it's kind of hard to get out and get that first step going.
So the thing that comes to mind that I usually say to people is, do you think it's possible to get out of quicksand by yourself?
Ooh.
Do you think it's possible to get out of quicksand by yourself?
I don't. I mean, I think the more you fight in quicksand, you drown faster, right?
That part. So the thing is that if it's not possible or not advised or probably really difficult to try to get out of quicksand by yourself, why is it that you are trying to get out of your negative mindset, your scarcity mindset, your difficult situation by yourself? Because your mind is quicksand. If you have a negative mindset, if you practice self-harm in the form of beating yourself up and not encouraging yourself and being your best cheerleader, and that means that you are in quicksand on a daily basis with yourself. If you can't get out of quicksand by yourself, well, what do you need to get out of quicksand?
Okay, lay it on us. What do we need? If we're not by ourselves, we must be with somebody.
You need a branch, a vine, a person, something. Help me out here. You know what I mean? A log, like
Yes.
There's options. So that's why I say I see opportunity, because it's not just one thing. It's a multitude of things. If I see a branch, if I see a vine, if there's a person nearby, I have my voice, I can ask for help or whatever the case, there's options. So you can listen to, okay, worth listening podcasts, stop playing these games. And if you have felt like these episodes have been helpful, I dare you to go back and to listen to them again, because you probably didn't catch everything the first time around. So what needs to happen is, and that's why I say it's conviction and a decision to commit to the process. I said, I don't care how long it actually takes me to get out of debt. It could take me 15 years. I'm going to figure out what to do by then to get out of debt. So the thing is that, one, people give up too easy. So you're a quitter. I'm just going to be honest with you. Love you, but you're a quitter. You need to commit to the process regardless. We don't tell babies, you know what, baby, you've fallen on your butt one too many times. You should stop trying to walk now. It's just not going to work for you. You should just keep crawling. You know, you're not a walker. We would never say that to a baby that's learning how to walk. We know that in the process of them learning how to walk, that they are going to fall on the butt. We don't even have the language of a mistake or failure for babies. It's not a mistake when they fall on their butt. It's a part of the process. So what happens is, somewhere along the line, we start introducing this success and failure language. And we start introducing this idea of performance and results-driven way of being. And now our worth has been attached to being productive and result-oriented, as opposed to our worth being intrinsic, and everything else is a bonus.
I told you.
To everybody else. Not to me, to everybody else, because checks is coming this way. If you got a 9-to-5 and they paying you, you're not going to work and writing them checks to be there. You wouldn't show up. They're paying you because you are an asset and you add value to the organization, or else they wouldn't be paying you. Businesses aren't out here just in the business of giving money away for fun. So that's the piece that has to change, is recognize that you can't get out of quicksand by yourself. You need a coach, a counselor, a podcast worth listening. Go back and listen to it again. I dare you. Take notes, put a screenshot, tag your girl, like whatever the case may be. And then you need to be committed to the process. No matter how many times I hit a wall, I am going to get up again and figure out how to get past it. Because again, we would not tell a baby, all right, baby, just lay down. It's fine. You ain't got to walk. You know what? We'll just carry you everywhere. Ain't nobody trying to carry a grown person everywhere.
Right.
You don't figure out how to walk. Keep going. You know what I mean? Like you're going to encourage the baby, right? So how can we take back that mentality with ourselves, regardless of whether we're 20, 35, 55, to still have that vigor to continue to get up after every single time? Because it probably ain't been that long in the span of your entire life. If you struggled for 10 years and you've lived 30, that was a 1/3 of a life that could be much longer than the 30 years. It sounds tough, I know, but I just can't help but be honest with y'all.
She is keeping it so real. And look, she's hyping up the podcast that you're already listening to, but I know that you are taking these gems in, and she has a podcast called Jacent's Gems. So after you finish this episode, head on over there to get more information on how you can be great in 2022.
I love it. It's so good. It's necessary though. And having conversations like this, you need to reevaluate your people, places, and things. If you've been struggling for years on end, have you been hanging out with the same people for years on end without introducing anyone new? I'm not saying you need to get rid of and cut off everyone in your life, but I am saying you might need to introduce Lauren and her podcast into your life. You might need to introduce a book club into your life. You might need to introduce a mastermind into your life, a mentor into your life, a coach, a counselor into your life. What about the places? Where are you going and spending time, and where are you investing the things? Are you buying the same things over and over and over and over again? So we can't be mad if you're buying the same stuff over again. It's you that's buying the stuff. And I say that with love because it was me. Like, I'm the one that went to Target and was making it rain for no reason. When I was in $20,000 worth of debt and went back through my credit card statements, I could not tell you where $20,000 was in my house. It wasn't there. It was consumed. I like to eat out. Okay. And I was making it rain at Walgreens. I couldn't leave Walgreens without spending at least $50. Who knows why Walgreens is set up that way? I'm sure they're real profitable, but I had to take ownership and say, I'm the reason I'm in this place in my life, not to blame or shame myself, but to take ownership, because when you take ownership, then you have influence.
Amen. Hallelujah. I think the thing we need to circle back to, though, is this idea of you don't get out of quicksand by yourself. So you mentioned a lot of educational resources, all the different types of people. Who are the people in your life? Who is your team and your community that you are in touch with, or that not using, but you are coming along with in your life? Like, who's that team of people for you? And then the second part of that would be like, what are the resources that you are currently doing to invest in yourself?
Yes. So I always say you need a money team, or whatever I call it, your success squad, right? And so for me, my money team in the early days was family and friends, because I told them like, hey, I'm going to be spending the next few years doing my best to get out of this debt. And so I told them what I was doing and working on. And so I let them know. And it wasn't that they were holding me accountable. They kind of did hold me accountable, because they'd be like, well, aren't you on a budget? Like, we want to go do something. They're like, but aren't you on a budget? I'm like, yeah, I could do what I want though. Right. And so it was them that held me accountable. And I'm thankful and grateful to have had their support in whatever way, shape, and form. Like, we would still go out to eat. And there were multiple times that I brought my own meal to the restaurant, and I would stare at the waiter in the face, like, you going to say something? Say something to me. Say it. Go ahead. I would bring my own food to the restaurant, but I'm extreme. So I will say that I'm kind of like an outlier. I do all kinds of extreme stuff.
That's commitment.
Look, listen, it paid off though, because now I do whatever I want. So it was my family and friends. And then I listened to the Dave Ramsey podcast, and I was listening to AO. And then I started figuring out, okay, what books do I need to listen to? Because things are going to lead you to more things. So whether it's on the good side or the bad side, it's going to lead you to more. If you're in a bad cycle, that bad cycle is going to lead you to more bad experiences, more bad people, bad relationships, and so on and so forth. When you're focusing on getting into a good cycle, it's going to lead you to more good people, good relationships, good experiences, and information. So as I listened to different books and podcasts, I would write down what they mentioned as far as another book I should read or another podcast I should listen to. And so I curated what I was consuming. And that's what a lot of people don't do, is curate what they consume. And so I had playlists that I would listen to in the morning. Big Sean was on it. I think I had Kanye on it because he was talking about being debt free in some song. Like, I literally had a playlist that I listened to. I spent time journaling every day. So for me, those were like my digital mentors and coaches. So I didn't pay them or go to their classes, but I was consuming what they were saying and I was implementing on that stuff. And so then it evolved into, okay, well, I know that people who are successful in the way that I want to be successful do invest monetarily in support. And so I started researching people and vetting them, because so many people are scared of being scammed, but it's like, you need to do your homework. Like, you probably got scammed by your university you went to. Right. You're scared to get scammed. You've already been scammed. Like, it's done. But do your research, do your homework, so that you invest with the right people. And so I took my time, probably a good 6 to 12 months, to be honest with you, to kind of be following people and seeing what they're doing and implementing on the free stuff they had. Because some people don't ever even implement on the free stuff, but want you to be quick to answer their question about a paid question, let me say, right? So it's like, have you done any of the free stuff that this person has suggested? Probably not. Have you listened to the Worth Listening podcast? back and through. Someone told me they listened to every single episode of my podcast. And I was like, I want to give you an award like that. I just want to give you an award for that because, and then he was like, okay, so now how can I pay you to support me? Because he did all the free stuff. So I think that, and that's not necessary, but I think it's really helpful for you to be able to vet in that way too, is do what someone is saying in their book, because books are textbooks. When someone writes a whole book, it's not just out here for fun. Like they're giving you the roadmap to whatever it is that they work on. So there's that. So now it's my CPA, my lawyer for the estate planning piece, because you got to protect the money to actually have generational wealth. Because if you don't have an estate plan, your money's going to die with you. It's going to go to the government. Okay, y'all. And nobody wants that. I've paid them enough. So the thing is that you onboard your money team that's going to help you protect and strategize to continue to build your wealth. And then I literally have multiple coaches. And I used to kind of be like, I don't know if I want to say ashamed, but like reluctant to say I had multiple coaches because I felt like that meant like, girl, you got a lot wrong with you. You got all these coaches. But no, I've got multiple coaches, like a coach for everything and anything, plus counseling, because when there's a football team, is there only one coach for the football team?
Nope.
I don't even watch sports, but I'm pretty sure there's like 3 to 5 coaches at least.
Right. Because everybody's got positions. Like, what is the position this coach is acting in? There's a lot more to me. I'm multifaceted. It's not
exactly. So I think of myself in that way, that Beyonce has an entire team. Oprah has an entire team. Michelle Obama has an entire team. And that's what helps them to do as well as they do. So even me as a layperson, I guess, a normal human or whatever, I need to have my team as well. And that's why it was important for me to become debt-free and financially independent so that I can invest in my team and continue to do so at a high level. So I would highly suggest those things. Listening to some books, curate what you consume, figure out who you want to start investing with, and commit to the process.
Oh my goodness. We have gone out with a bang. I know you all are feeling inspired, motivated. You're still tuned in, but as soon as you get done, you are going to take action to do something to change your life in 2022. I'm ready to do it. I'm excited. I'm inspired by what you said. This has been a great episode. So we're going to round it out with what I like to call the final sprint. And what we do here is I kind of rapid fire some questions with you and you say whatever's on your mind.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, here we go. You got $20 in your pocket right now. What do you spend it on?
$20. I think I'm really into profit first and pay yourself first. I'd probably divide it up. So I'd probably save some, I'd probably spend some, and then I'd probably give some away.
Okay, I'm here for it. Something you do for fun that doesn't cost anything.
I go for walks.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. I like to sleep. Mm-hmm.
Sleep is definitely something that is free 99. All right, finish this sentence. That awkward financial moment when...
Oh boy, that awkward financial moment when I became debt-free and now it's like I have to learn about investing and I literally feel like an idiot. I'm like, NFT, GC, what? What is that letter you just... I'm like, huh? It feels like a whole different language. It's completely foreign to me and it's super awkward because people are like, oh, you're a financial expert, a financial dude. No. I know this part of it. I don't know everything. Okay. I know this piece real well. The other pieces, I'm still trying to figure it out.
I love that. And the transparency behind the idea that like people say like, oh, you're an expert, you must have it all figured out. And it's like, no, there are layers upon layers upon layers upon layers. We just finished a Know Better, Do Better series where I had my girl Chloe Moore come on, and she talked all about all things stock compensation because that is her area of expertise that she has leaned into. There are so many aspects of finances while we are experts and we may be even well-rounded in more areas in comparison to other. We don't know every single thing. Don't put that on us. Right.
Right. Stressing me out. I'm like, but it's really me putting it on me. Right. So
it's true. All right. Worst money habit.
Ooh, worst money habit. You know what? As crazy as it is, I am not really organized. So my worst money habit has to do with like a lack of organization.
Okay. Tell us about your best money habit.
Best money habit is that I have tunnel vision. So with my money, it's like if I have a goal, that's what forces the structure because I know myself. So the best money habit is like, I'm going to find the accountability. I will pay someone to hold me accountable, or I'm going to have someone help me be accountable. I'm going to create a spreadsheet or some kind of plan or process. I'll do challenges with myself. So I'll do money challenges with myself. And that's probably my best habit because it helps me to deal with my worst one.
I like it. I like it. Okay. So the final question I feel like is going to be related to that worst one as well, but maybe not. So could you share with us one thing that you would like to improve about your finances in the upcoming year?
Yeah, one thing I would like to improve. Well, I'm gonna make some more money. That's gonna improve. But definitely the level of organization needing to go up, which for me means higher accountability. So that's something that I'm gonna focus on.
So what's the action item to help you reach that goal?
The action item.
The accountability starts right now, girl.
Look, the action item I'm going to say. So what me and my husband used to do was have money meetings more regularly. And so I'm going to text him as soon as we get done and say, hey, when we have our next money meeting, we need to put it on a calendar.
I like it. I like it. You have made it to the podium, finished the final sprint. Here is your medal. This is your time to shine. Go ahead and shout yourself out. Tell us where we can find you, how we can support you, what kind of cool things you're up to next. Go for it.
Yes. Well, I have to say thank you, Lauren, for having me on. Absolutely phenomenal. I truly appreciate you and highly suggest everyone go and binge every episode previous to this because I'm sure it will level you up in so many different ways. But I do have a podcast of my own as well. It's called Jacent Gems, Jacents, Gems, GEMS. That's also the name of my Instagram page. And that's where I am really active and share as much helpful information as I possibly can. I also say that my Instagram is my internet home. So if you come and check me out, don't be rude, don't be disrespectful, and not speak to me when you come to my house. So send me a DM. Let me know where you found me from. I love knowing that we connected through the Worth Listening podcast, and then we can have a little chat. So say hi. I might say hi to you first. I might beat you to the punch. But yeah, the programs that I've got coming up, I have my signature program, and that's through Wealth and Wellness University, where we're building wealth and not burning out at the same time. Okay, so you can live your best life while you're building wealth, really connecting the mental and money together so that we can build generational wealth and health at the same time.
Yes. Generational health and wealth. I love it. This was an excellent episode. There is one more for the year. I will be closing us out, but I don't know that I need to. Maybe I'll just take the rest of the year off and I'll see you guys in 2022 because Jacent gave us everything we need to be successful. No more excuses. Let's get it going. Thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thank you.